Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that takes the lead in today's edition for Monday, 18th November 2024, and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillean Group. Malcolm X's family sues FBI, CIA, and New York Police Department over his murder. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all, perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. Relatives of civil rights activist Malcolm X of Grenadian parentage are suing U.S. law enforcement agencies for complicity in his assassination 60 years ago. They claim the FBI, CIA, and New York Police Department were all aware of the plot to assassinate him but did nothing to stop it, seeking $100 million in damages. 3 men were convicted of his murder, but 2 were exonerated more than 50 years later when the case was re-examined. More in this BBC News item.
Raymond Hamlin is a lawyer acting for the family.
So you ask yourself this last question. Why would the government prosecute 2 individuals knowing those individuals had no involvement in the assassination? What was it that our government, that the city was trying to protect?
Our correspondent Rowan Bridge is following developments from Washington. He gave me this update.
Malcolm X was a charismatic but controversial figure within the civil rights movement of the 1960s in the United States. He was the chief spokesman for the Nation of Islam, to start off with, a sort of black nationalist movement. And he became famous for saying that black people should use whatever means necessary to claim back their civil rights, including violence. But he split from the Nation of Islam. He went on a pilgrimage to Mecca and came back with a very different sort of viewpoint. He moderated his earlier views. And that had created a lot of tension with the Nation of Islam, and he received death threats to his life, and he feared for his own safety when he returned to the United States. And then he was giving a speech at a ballroom in New York when he was assassinated. He was shot dead in front of several hundred people. And the allegation now is that there was complicity by the authorities in Malcolm X's death. This all comes off the back of a letter which was allegedly written by a New York police officer before he died in 2020, where he said he had infiltrated Malcolm X's organization and got his security team to commit offences so that they could be arrested by the New York police before Malcolm X gave that speech. And then the allegation is also that there were undercover officers in the ballroom who did nothing to protect Malcolm X and allowed that shooting to go ahead. And there has always been controversy over whether the authorities were complicit in his death or not. And I think this court case, really, one of the things they're hoping to do is prize out that information to get a full accounting of what happened, and also to get reparations for the family of Malcolm X.
Yeah, so take us through the timeline now of what happens next.
Well, I mean, American court cases can take some time. I mean, this is a civil suit that they are bringing against the FBI, the CIA, and the New York Police Department. So that case will now have to make its way through the courts. At the moment, though, the authorities involved are all making no comment on the case. So at the moment, we have the sort of headline that the case has been filed, this unlawful death suit has been filed, and now we'll wait for that to sort of grind its way through the American legal system, really.
The Salaries Review Commission, SRC, in Trinidad and Tobago is now proposing that the Prime Minister's salary should be $87,000 per month. In February of this year, there was a massive public outcry when the SRC recommended that the head of government's salary be moved from $80,000 between 2020 to 2023. Now, following a fresh review by the SRC, the organization is suggesting that office holders and others be paid more from the period October 1st, 2023 onwards. CNC3's Akash Samaru has the details from the latest SRC report.
Now, it was only in February of this year the Salaries Review Commission recommended a massive pay increase for the Prime Minister from his current $59,680 per month to $80,000 per month for the period October 1st, 2020 to September 30th, 2023, as well as small upward adjustments in base salaries for members of Parliament and the President. But that was never approved, and Cabinet sent back the 117th SRC report to the organization earlier this year, saying it was unacceptable. But now we have the newly minted 120th SRC report, and in this latest document, the SRC explained that certain office holders had expressed concerns with the former report, with some of them being that recommended compensation for certain positions may have been lower than current values, and also there was a lack of consultation. And the new report actually recommends higher increases with effect from October 1st, 2023, across the board compared to the last recommendation. And this also includes the Chief Justice. There's also a suggested pay bump for the Commissioner of Police. Starting with the head of government, the SRC is recommending that the Prime Minister's new monthly salary should be $87,847, moving up from its previous suggestion of $80,000 for the 3-year period 2020 to 2023. And that excludes his many allowances and benefits. Meanwhile, the opposition leader was not left out. The SRC recommended that salary now increase to $52,159, again upward movement from its previous recommendation of $47,500 for the period 2020 to 2023. Currently, she earns a base salary of $29,590. The President of the Republic can also see her salary increase to $81,170, moving up from the 117th report's recommendation of $73,920 between 2020 and 2023. As of right now, the President earns $64,270. Meanwhile, the SRC also suggested that the cabinet members get around an extra $5,000 more from their previous suggestion, moving their wages to $52,159 from the period October 1st, 2023 onwards. Currently, they earn $41,030 per month. And while the Chief Justice and other judges were left out of the last salary review, they were not this time around. The SRC is now proposing the Chief Justice's new salary move to $60,919. There are proposals for increases for appeal court judges, puisne judges, and even magistrates. Ivor Archie currently earns a base salary of $50,350. There's also a suggestion from the SRC for the Commissioner of Police's salary to be increased as well. The report proposes that monthly salary climb to $43,155 from the $39,300 as previously proposed for the 3-year period. Presently, the police commissioner earns $31,080. Now, it's important to note that this is merely a recommendation from the SRC and will need cabinet approval. Therefore, the ball is now in the finance minister's court, who ultimately will let the cabinet know if the state can fund these increases. The remuneration packages for parliamentarians have not been adjusted since 2013. Akash Samaru, CNC3 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick, in association with our friends at
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
A senior official of the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, has suggested that the region is becoming a murder capital of the world and has told Barbados and the Caribbean the regional justice system is in dire need of reform. President of the CCJ, Justice Adrian Saunders, reminded the criminal justice system is not a single system. He was among the panel for a regional town hall advancing justice in the Caribbean post Needham's Point Declaration.
In 2022, most of the top 10 countries that had the highest per capita incidence of murders were from the Caribbean. And therefore, the Caribbean Court of Justice Academy for Law has taken it upon itself to make criminal justice reform a very important part of their program. And last year in October, almost just over a year ago, we had this very important conference in Barbados that resulted in what we call the Needham's Point Declaration. And that declaration sets performance standards for criminal justice actors.
CEO of the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Employers Federation, Leo Roll, comments on the latest report from the International Development Bank, the IDB. More in this ZNS News item.
The Inter-American Development Bank's latest publication, Are We There Yet? The Path Towards Sustained Economic Growth in the Caribbean, is dealing a heavy blow on several sectors here in the Bahamas. A portion of the report indicating that 73.4% of local companies have made informal payments to government officials to either obtain or speed up the necessary approvals or access to services. This data not sitting well with Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation Chief Executive Officer Dr. Leo Roll. He feels more information needs to be disseminated on who was surveyed.
If you say 75% of businesses were have been taking bribe, or 73%, I think it was, but you've only surveyed 4 people, then that means 3 of the 4 people have been taking the bribe. So how many persons were surveyed? How did this report come about? Is this anecdotal evidence? Is this hearsay, or are there actual records that these persons can prove that yes, they did pay bribes? And so we want to understand really and truly the impetus of the information, how it came about, and of course encourage persons of all sectors to do your job.
The Chamber exec also weighed in on the report's findings that crime accounts for $100 million towards the national deficit.
There's a business owner in a community that's crime-ridden. They may lose business because people may not feel like it's safe to shop there. They also have to, about 40% of that we look at when we looked at the report, spoke to businesses trying to find measures of security. And so if I'm spending as a business owner 40% of my income, or whatever percentage of my income, trying to increase my security measures, then that obviously will have to be passed on to consumers through inflation.
Guyana's President Ali's 5:30 a.m. meeting with contractors is an ultimate admission of failure on his part. So says leader of the Alliance for Change in Guyana, on which Anthony Day reports for the HGP Nightly News.
On Tuesday morning, President Irfan Ali at a meeting chided a number of government officials and contractors for months-long delays in several construction projects. They were rebuked for poor oversight and supervision of contracts which they manage. President Ali also threatened to cancel the contracts and to invoke liquidated damages if the deadlines for projects were not achieved. However, this was publicly done during a Facebook Live to which leader of the Alliance for Change, Nigel Hughes, deemed inappropriate.
Humiliation is not a basis upon which the government or anyone should engage in for the purposes of attempting to either modify or rectify what is clearly inadequate performance.
The Attorney at Law said that the contractors are not the ones to be blamed, but rather the state, since it has failed to address loopholes in the procurement system.
Clearly, the only purpose of that meeting was to demonstrate to the citizenry that the president had the power to summon people at 5:30 in the morning, humiliate them in some sort of public relations attempt to enhance his standing when it was obvious that this was the ultimate admission of failure on his part.
Hughes noted that there has been instances where contracts were awarded to inexperienced contractors.
Any smooth, efficient, and responsible government would have several structures in place that monitor projects irrespective of their size to make sure that the people of Guyana get the quality of product that is being paid for. Not a single contract was examined in detail. There was no drill down as to the failure.
Antonio Day reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's a service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.